The acrid stench of burnt flesh and ozone hung heavy in the air as Sergeant Major Candace Hawthorne surveyed what remained of her squad. 15 Marines in gleaming obsidian-powered armor stood before her, their imposing silhouettes a stark contrast to the alien landscape's sickly orange sky. Each soldier was a walking tank, encased in thick plates of nano-reinforced titanium alloy, their armor adorned with the proud insignia of the Orion military. Sound off, Hawthorne barked, her voice amplified through her helmet's external speakers. One by one, the survivors reported in. 15 out of 63. The mission had gone to hell faster than a quantum torpedo, and now they were stranded on this godforsaken rock, surrounded by hostiles that defied explanation. As the last Marine called out, Hawthorne's mind drifted back to the mission briefing on Centrium. The holographic display had shown a lush, Earth-like world nothing like the nightmarish hellscape they'd encountered. Their orders had been simple: extract a group of VIP scientists from an outpost and escort them to the spaceport for immediate evacuation. Simple. Right. The planet's surface was a maze of twisted, fleshy vegetation that pulsed with an otherworldly life of its own. The air itself seemed to hunger for them, carrying spores that clung to their armor, seeking any crack or crevice to infiltrate. Donovan Hawthorne called out to her second in command. "Sitrep on our loadout." Corporal Jack Donovan's deep voice rumbled through the comm. "We're down to 60% power across all suits, Sergeant Major. Ammo's critically low, maybe enough for one more sustained firefight. Med supplies are nominal, but with these things out there, I'm not sure how much good they'll do." Hawthorne nodded grimly. The things Donovan referred to were unlike any foe they'd faced before. They'd first encountered them en route to the spaceport, shambling, twisted parodies of the planet's native species. But it wasn't their appearance that chilled Hawthorne to her core, it was their relentless, single-minded pursuit. No matter how many they gunned down, more kept coming. "All right, listen up," Hawthorne addressed her troops. "The extraction went foobar. We lost good people out there, and those VIPs," she paused, the image of the scientists being swarmed flashing before her eyes. "They're gone. Our priority now is to get back to the outpost and hold out until extraction." Private Lily Erie, the squad's comms specialist, spoke up. "Sergeant Major, I've been trying to raise command, but there's some kind of interference. It's like the planet itself is jamming us." Hawthorne cursed under her breath. Of course it wouldn't be that easy. "Keep trying, Erie. The rest of you, form up. We move in hexapod formation. Weapons hot, but conserve ammo. We've got a long trek ahead of us." As the Marines fell into formation, Hawthorne couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The very air seemed to pulse with malevolent intent. They set off across the alien terrain, each step a defiance against a world that wanted them dead. The distant howls of the infected echoed across the landscape, a chilling reminder of what awaited them should they fail. Hawthorne's grip tightened on her MX-950 plasma rifle. They were Orion's finest, trained in the unforgiving depths of space and forged in the fires of 100 battles. But as she gazed at the horizon, where writhing masses of infected creatures blotted out the dying sun, she wondered if even that would be enough. The alien sun hung low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the prefabricated structures of Outpost Zeta-9. Sergeant Major Candace Hawthorne stood atop the main building, her armor's sensors scanning the perimeter. The 15 surviving Orion Marines moved with practiced efficiency, transforming the scientific outpost into a makeshift fortress. "Donovan, status report," Hawthorne barked into her comm. Corporal Jack Donovan's voice crackled back. "Perimeter defenses are at 60%, Sergeant Major. Erie's rigging the sensor array to give us better coverage. Rodriguez and Martinez are setting up heavy weapon emplacements on the north and east sides." Hawthorne nodded, her eyes fixed on the writhing horizon. "Good. What about our power situation?" "Lieutenant Kova's got that covered," Donovan replied. "She's jury-rigging the outpost's fusion reactor to interface with our suit systems. Should buy us some extra time." As if summoned by her name, Lieutenant Anya Kova's voice cut in. "Sergeant Major, I've got good news and bad news. Good news is, I can boost our suit power to about 85%. Bad news, the reactor's unstable. Push it too hard, and we'll light up this rock like a nova." Hawthorne allowed herself a grim smile. Understood, Lieutenant. Good work. Now get back to the others. I want everyone together for a final briefing. 15 minutes later, the surviving Marines gathered in the outpost's main hall. Hawthorne looked at each of them, committing their faces to memory. There was Specialist Raj Patel, their demo expert, fingers twitching, as if eager to set another charge. Next to him stood the towering form of Private First Class Olga Volkov, the team's heavy weapons specialist. Her massive Thunderbolt cannon looked almost delicate in her armored hands. "All right, people, listen up," Hawthorne began. "We've got a horde of hostiles incoming, and our job is to hold this position until extraction arrives. I know we're all thinking about the men and women we lost out there, about the VIPs we couldn't save, but right now we need to focus on survival." She brought up a holographic display of the outpost. "We've got 4 main approaches. North and east are covered by heavy weapons. South and west have natural choke points we can exploit. Erie, what's the status on communications?" Private Lily Erie, her armor adorned with an array of antennae and signal boosters, shook her head. "Still nothing, Sergeant Major. It's like the planet itself is blocking our transmissions. I've set up a tight beam array aimed at our last known friendly coordinates, but we can't count on it," Hawthorne finished. "Understood. We operate under the assumption that we're on our own." Specialist Marcus Wong, their medic, spoke up. "Sergeant Major, I've analyzed the biological samples we collected. These creatures, they're not just mindless zombies. There's a hive intelligence at work here. They learn, they adapt." A murmur ran through the squad. Hawthorne raised a hand for silence. "All the more reason to stay sharp. Remember your training. We're Orion's finest, and we didn't come this far to die on some backwater planet." As if on cue, a piercing shriek cut through the air, followed by another and another. The cacophony grew until it seemed to shake the very foundations of the outpost. "Looks like the welcoming committee's here," Corporal Donovan muttered, hefting his plasma rifle. Hawthorne's voice cut through the noise, calm and steady. "You all know your positions. Whatever comes through that perimeter, we hold the line. For Orion, for each other we hold." The Marines moved to their assigned posts, each step echoing with purpose. As Hawthorne took her position at the command center, she allowed herself one last look at her team. 15 of Orion's finest, about to face an army of nightmares. Outside, the first wave of alien monstrosities breached the outer perimeter. The night lit up with weapons fire, and the battle for Outpost Zeta-9 began. The night sky erupted in a symphony of destruction as the Orion Marines unleashed hell upon the advancing horde. Plasma bolts seared through the air, turning the front ranks of the alien zombies into ash and cinder. The thunderous roar of Olga Volkov's Thunderbolt cannon echoed across the battlefield, each shot carving massive swathes through the enemy lines. "Keep it tight. Don't let them breach the perimeter," Sergeant Major Hawthorne's voice cut through the chaos, steady and unwavering. From her position at the command center, Hawthorne watched as wave after wave of the monstrosities hurled themselves at the outpost's defenses. The creatures were a nightmarish fusion of the planet's native fauna and some unknown, parasitic entity. Some bounded forward on multiple limbs, while others slithered and oozed across the ground. But all shared the same relentless drive to reach the Marines. "Erie. Status report on the eastern flank," Hawthorne barked into her comm. Private Lily Erie's voice crackled back, punctuated by the staccato of her weapon fire. "Eastern defenses holding, Sergeant Major. But these things, they're learning. They're using the bodies of the fallen as cover." Hawthorne's jaw clenched. "Patel, we need those sonic disruptors online now." "Working on it," Sarge Specialist Raj Patel's voice was strained. "Just need another minute to calibrate the—" "Oh shit." A massive tentacle, easily the width of a tree trunk, smashed through the wall next to Patel. With lightning reflexes, he rolled away, narrowly avoiding being crushed. Lieutenant Kova was there in an instant, her plasma cutter slicing through the appendage with surgical precision. "Thanks," LT Patel gasped, scrambling back to the control panel. "All right, disruptors coming online. Now." A high-pitched whine filled the air, and the advancing horde stumbled. The sonic waves played havoc with whatever passed for their nervous systems, giving the Marines a moment's respite. But it wasn't enough. For every creature that fell, two more took its place. The perimeter, so carefully fortified, began to buckle under the relentless assault. Northside's compromised Corporal Donovan's voice was tight with tension. "We can't hold them much longer." Hawthorne made a split-second decision. "Volkov, take your team and reinforce the north. Martinez, Wong, with me. We're going to plug that breach." As they charged towards the failing section of the defenses, Hawthorne saw Private First Class Rodriguez standing his ground, his armor scored and smoking. A swarm of smaller creatures, each no larger than a dog but with razor-sharp claws, had breached the line and were tearing at his suit. "Get clear," Rodriguez Hawthorne shouted, raising her weapon. "Negative," Sergeant Major Rodriguez grunted, his voice filled with pain and determination. "I'll hold them here. You seal the breach." Before Hawthorne could respond, Rodriguez primed a plasma grenade. For Orion, he roared, charging into the mass of creatures. The ensuing explosion vaporized the breach, along with Rodriguez and scores of the enemy. Hawthorne allowed herself only a moment of silence for her fallen comrade before barking new orders. "Martinez, lay down suppressing fire. Wong, get those auto turrets back online." For hours, the battle raged. The Marines fought with everything they had, their advanced weaponry and impeccable training pushing back against the tide of horrors. But even Orion's finest had their limits. As the alien sun began to rise, casting an eerie glow over the battlefield, Hawthorne realized with grim certainty that their ammunition was running critically low. The constant barrage had taken its toll on their weapon systems, and even their mighty powered armor was showing signs of strain. Specialist Wong's voice, usually calm and collected, held a note of desperation. "Sergeant Major, we're almost out of med supplies. And these things, they're carrying some kind of bioweapon. Our armor's decontamination systems are being overwhelmed." Hawthorne looked out over the sea of writhing bodies still pushing towards them. They had held through the night, but at a terrible cost. Of the 15 that had started this last stand, only 10 remained. As she watched her team valiantly holding the line, weapons firing in increasingly sporadic bursts, Sergeant Major Candace Hawthorne knew they had reached a turning point. The next decision she made would determine not just their fate, but how they would be remembered in the annals of Orion's history. With resolute determination, she opened a channel to all remaining Marines. "All units, fall back to the central compound. Prepare for close-quarters combat," she paused, her next words heavy with the weight of their situation. "And fix bayonets." Sergeant Major Candace Hawthorne's order echoed through the comm channel, a grim reminder of their desperate situation. "Fix bayonets."
As one, the remaining Orion Marines reached for the monomolecular blades attached to their armor. With a soft hiss, the bayonets extended, gleaming wickedly in the alien world's eerie light.
For a moment, time seemed to stand still. In that brief respite, memories flooded through Hawthorne's mind back to the rigorous training grounds on Centrium, where they had honed their skills in hand-to-hand combat. The instructor's words rang in her ears in the vastness of space. "When all else fails, you'll have nothing but your blade and your brothers in arms." How distant those days seemed now, on this nightmarish planet light years from home. Corporal Jack Donovan's voice broke the silence, tinged with dark humor. "Well, folks, looks like we're about to earn our combat knives the old-fashioned way." A weak chuckle rippled through the squad, a final moment of camaraderie before the storm. Lieutenant Anyakova spoke up, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "It's been an honor serving with you all. Whatever happens next, we make Orion proud." Hawthorne nodded, though none could see it inside her helmet. "All right, Marines, we've got one last job to do. We hold this line until there's no one left to hold it. For Orion, for each other, we fight." The air was thick with tension as the surviving Marines formed a tight circle in the central compound. The sounds of the horde grew louder, the walls of their final refuge groaning under the onslaught. Specialist Raj Patel worked feverishly at a console, his fingers flying over the controls. "Sarge, I've rigged what's left of our explosives to the reactor. If we're going down, we're taking these bastards with us." "Good work," Patel Hawthorne replied. "But we're not triggering that unless we have no other choice. We're Orion Marines. We don't go gentle into that good night." A thunderous crash signaled the breach of their final defenses. The nightmarish horde poured in, a writhing mass of tentacles, claws, and inhuman flesh. "Here they come," shouted Private First Class Olga Volkov, her massive frame tensed for combat. "Let's show these xenofreaks how Orion fights." The Marines charged forward, meeting the alien tide head-on. Their powered armor, though battered and low on energy, still gave them superhuman strength and speed. Hawthorne's monomolecular blade sliced through the first creature to reach her, its acidic blood sizzling harmlessly against her armor. She ducked under a swinging tentacle, then drove her armored fist through the skull of another attacker. Beside her, Corporal Donovan fought like a man possessed, his combat knife a blur of motion. "Come on, you ugly bastards," he roared, taking down 3 creatures in rapid succession. Lieutenant Kova moved with deadly grace, her years of close-quarters combat training evident in every precise strike and parry. She fought back-to-back with Specialist Wong, the medic's knowledge of xenobiology allowing him to target the creature's weak points with terrifying accuracy. But for every alien they cut down, more scrambled over the bodies of the fallen. The Marines' superior training and technology kept them alive, but exhaustion began to take its toll. Private Erie was the first to fall, overwhelmed by a surge of smaller, faster creatures that swarmed over her armor. Her scream cut off abruptly as they found a weak point in her suit. Erie Patel cried out, fighting his way towards her, but it was too late. In his moment of distraction, a massive tentacle wrapped around his leg, dragging him into the seething mass of aliens. One by one, the Marines fell. Each death was marked by a fierce last stand, taking dozens of the enemy with them. Volkov, her armor finally giving out, triggered her suit's self-destruct, vaporizing herself and a huge swath of the horde in a blinding explosion. As the battle reached its crescendo, only Hawthorne, Donovan, and Kova remained, forming a triangle of death at the center of the compound. Their armor was in tatters, power reserves critically low, but their spirits remained unbroken. "It's been a hell of a ride," Donovan grunted, decapitating an alien with a sweep of his blade. Kova nodded, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Wouldn't have missed it for the world. Hawthorne allowed herself a grim smile, even as she fought. "Remember, we're Orion's finest. Let's make sure they remember this day." As the 3 survivors prepared for their final stand, the alien sun broke through the clouds, casting a surreal light over the battlefield. In that moment, Hawthorne thought she heard a distant rumble, different from the sounds of combat. But there was no time to dwell on it. The horde pressed in, and the last of Orion's Marines their blades, ready to write the final chapter of their legend in blood and valor. The world had narrowed to a rhythm of slash, parry, and thrust for Sergeant Major Candace Hawthorne. Her monomolecular blade sang as it cleaved through alien flesh, her armor's servos whining in protest with each movement. Beside her, Corporal Jack Donovan and Lieutenant Anya Kova fought with equal ferocity, their last stand a symphony of violence against the relentless horde. Time seemed to slow, each moment etched in crystal clarity. Hawthorne saw Donovan take a hit that shattered his helmet's visor, exposing his face to the toxic atmosphere. He didn't miss a beat, roaring defiance as he plunged his combat knife into the offending creature's skull. Kova, her left arm hanging useless at her side, spun in a deadly dance, her blade flashing in the alien sunlight. "Candace," she gasped through the comm, "it's been an on." Her words cut off as a massive tentacle wrapped around her waist, crushing her armor like tinfoil. With her last breath, Kova triggered her suit's overload, disappearing in a blinding flash that took a significant chunk of the horde with her. Anya Hawthorne cried out, but there was no time for mourning. The gap left by Kova's sacrifice was quickly filled by more of the nightmarish creatures. Hawthorne and Donovan found themselves back to back, a whirlwind of blades and armored fists. Their powered suits, once gleaming examples of Orion's technological prowess, were now battered shells running on emergency power. "Hey, Sarge," Donovan's voice crackled through the damaged comm. punctuated by his labored breathing. Think they'll name a star after us when this is over. Despite everything, Hawthorne felt a smile tug at her lips. A star? Hell, Donovan, they'll name the whole damn constellation after us. A harsh laugh from Donovan turned into a wet cough. Damn right they will. The aliens pressed in, their numbers seemingly endless. Hawthorne's arms felt like lead, each swing of her blade requiring monumental effort. Donovan's movements were becoming sluggish, the toxic atmosphere taking its toll. As Hawthorne decapitated yet another creature, a sound cut through the chaos of battle. A deep, rumbling roar that seemed to shake the very air around them. "You hear that?" Sarge Donovan wheezed, hope coloring his voice for the first time in hours. Hawthorne's heart leaped. That sound, could it be? She risked a glance upward, her helmet's cracked visor struggling to compensate for the glare. There, streaking across the alien sky, were the unmistakable silhouettes of Orion dropships. Dozens of them, their engines burning hot as they screamed towards the planet's surface. Help had finally arrived. For a moment, joy surged through Hawthorne. They had done it. They had held out long enough for rescue to come. But as quickly as it had come, the elation faded. The dropships were still too far away. The Horde, sensing the Marines' momentary distraction, surged forward with renewed vigor. Jack Hawthorne said softly, "Looks like our ride is here." Donovan chuckled weakly. Fashionably late, as usual he stumbled, going down on one knee as an alien claw found a weak spot in his armor. Hawthorne moved to cover him, her blade a blur of motion. "On your feet, Marine. That's an order." With a grunt of effort, Donovan pushed himself up. "Aye, aye, Sarge. One last dance." "One last dance," Hawthorne agreed. Side by side, the last two survivors of Orion's finest charged into the mass of aliens. Their blades rose and fell, each strike a defiant statement against the inevitability of their fate. They fought for their fallen comrades, for distant Centrium, for the very soul of Orion itself. The dropships drew closer, their weapons blazing as they strafed the alien horde. But for Sergeant Major Candace Hawthorne and Corporal Jack Donovan, it was too little, too late. As the aliens finally overwhelmed them, Hawthorne's last thought was of home, the shimmering spires of Centrium, bathed in the light of Orion's belt. In her mind's eye, she saw the Douglas clan's banner flying proudly, a testament to the indomitable spirit of their civilization. The first boots of the Orion rescue force touched down on the blood-soaked ground mere moments later. They fought their way through the diminishing horde, their advanced weapons making short work of the creatures that had cost so many lives. As the dust settled and the rescue team secured the area, they found the bodies of Hawthorne and Donovan. The two Marines lay where they had fallen, surrounded by a ring of alien corpses, their shattered armor still gleaming faintly in the alien sun. Captain Yara Stromgren, leader of the rescue force, knelt beside the fallen heroes. With gentle hands, she retrieved their dog tags, her voice thick with emotion as she spoke into her comm. "Command, this is Stromgren. We were too late, but by the stars they held. 15 Marines against an army of nightmares, and they held." She stood, surveying the devastation around her. "Send word to Centrium. The Douglas clan needs to hear of this. Today we lost some of our finest, but their sacrifice won't be in vain." Her voice hardened with resolve. "And someone find me whatever passes for high command on this rock. The Orion Expeditionary Force is here, and we've got a score to settle." As the rescue teams continued their grim work, the alien sun climbed higher in the sky. Its light glinted off the dropships and the armor of the fallen, a silent tribute to the 15 Marines who had made their last stand on this distant, unforgiving world. In the years to come, the Battle of Outpost Zeta-9 would become legend. Memorials would be raised on a dozen worlds, and the names of the fallen would be etched in gold on the halls of Centrium itself. But for now, in the aftermath of the desperate struggle, there was only silence, broken by the whisper of an alien wind across the battlefield where Orion's finest had written their names in history. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I hope you loved it. Please remember to subscribe if you did like it so you can see more videos like this. And please give us a like and a comment too. I'll see you in the next one.